Welcome, Meatsmiths. You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest.
Restoring husbandry to prosperity.
By means of the traditions of our fathers. This Farmstead Meatsmith production is made possible by you. If you like it, please consider supporting our team by going to patreon.com/Meatsmith and donating at a level you'd enjoy giving at. Your gift helps us increase the quality and quantity of all our free media education. Thank you, and happy harvesting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, this Wednesday afternoon. We are officially out of the Christmas feast and the Christmas tide. We're still in the Christmas season, as it were, but slowly heading towards.
We still say Merry Christmas.
That's true, yeah.
Even though we have finished all of the plum puddings and the mincemeat pies, which means we didn't make enough because they need to last for 40 days.
Yeah. So Candlemas is kind of feels like it's around the corner, but we're still about a week and a half away, I think. So, yeah, it feels like kind of a lifetime has gone by since we've recorded.
It does. It kind of has more classes than we've ever taught in any single span of time has also transpired. Yeah. In that time. Yeah. And so it's a bit of a whirlwind. And this is the Meatsmith Harvest, our podcast, which we record whene'er we can. It's kind of tricky. But when we do, we broadcast it live on the Meatsmith table, which is our closed Facebook group for Meatsmith members. And so they can actually jump in and participate in the podcast with questions or comments or encouraging stories of harvesting on the home scale. And actually, Eric asked, apart from the awesome looking classes, is it possible to visit the farmstead? And I would say, Eric, you probably don't want to visit us apart from the awesome looking classes.
It's so true.
That is really, it's tricky. You know, we have, with the kids and a busy farm, we're gone a lot at church, and it's, the classes really are the time. Yeah. They are the time. Not least of all because I clean up the barn a little bit, make things a little presentable. But it's you really get to see everything in full operation there. How we use the infrastructure of our homestead to rightly harvest creatures. And if there's just kind of a random day, you know, without a class, there's probably not a lot going on. Like, the cows and the sheep are just chewing their cud. The ducks are swimming in their pool, and half of us are gone, and the pigs are taking a nap in the sun. But with a class, you know, we have to use things. We have to corral animals. We have to rightly direct them in order to maintain their calmness and slaughter them properly. And we use the shop. We put the shop to work. So I would say any visit to the farmstead will be much more worth your while during a family pig or family cow, family sheep class, or St. Martin's goose class.
I know some people might want to say, yeah, but I want to see the ho-hum, the day in and the day out. But it wouldn't be functional because that's precisely when you are fixing things.
Yeah, that's true.
Not glamorous things.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how much detail I should go into right now, but the things that you've had to fix.
Yeah.
Septic.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
It's pretty dirty work.
Yeah, when we do the classes, everything is working, and then when we're done with the classes, everything breaks, which is one of the laws of thermodynamics. I think it is after you finish the harvest or the sowing or the classes, everything breaks again. It's the annual breakage of all the things every year.
Yeah. And even like sometimes they'll be breaking in the middle of the classes,
Yes.
but you don't know about it.
Oh.
Because just like in a restaurant, any food business, there's a front of the house and there's a back of the house, and they don't know about each other very well. You know, for the sake of the people that are there, I mean, we've got to keep things running smoothly. And so, like towards the end of this last harvest season, we were totally hobbling along.
Yeah.
You know, it was fine, but it was like then the last few weeks, you've been really patching things back together.
Yeah.
So.
And by providence, divine intervention, everything holds on right until the last minute of the last day of the last class.
Yep.
We just make it.
We patch it together. Yeah.
And then the moment that last student drives away, everything collapses.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But it is truly miraculous that we do make it. Like it could only be divine intervention. Mm-hmm. We make it through. Yeah. And it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So this last fall, we made it through all the classes, and then Christmas hit. And so we had to kind of actually keep going even through Christmas a little bit for the kids' sake.
Well, and it is our moral obligation to celebrate.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to
Which
give that
takes
up.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you have feast days, especially Christmas and Easter, it's not, kick back and relax. It's not.
No, we're not going to Grandma's house.
Yeah, my slippers, Sherry, and Pipe are due by 6:02. It is get to work.
Yeah. And we have all the kids. The kids this year really stepped up, and they, at least 4 or 5 of them, really made it happen. Mm-hmm. They made the 8 plum puddings and 50 pounds at least of mincemeat pies. I mean, it was just insane, the quantity. We had 2 Christmas parties with, because we couldn't have fit everyone in our house at once. And
it'd be like 500 people.
Different ages of friends that we have. And so we did, it was a lot. So we did all these Christmas parties, and then like right about Epiphany, I collapsed. I was like, okay, guys, I need to have a break for like a couple days, and then homeschool started. So yeah.
It's just like the burden of abundance with the harvest of an animal, which we always talk about, and too much, but that you dare to harvest an entire pig or cow or whatever it might be, and to receive as much as that animal can give is burdensome. Yeah. Like, you are overwhelmed by abundance. Guaranteed you do not have enough freezer space. Guaranteed. You did not think it. You just didn't anticipate it. Because that abundance is so beyond what you imagined. It's way more. And that is what I feel like feasting as a Catholic has become. It's like, okay, if you are going to rightly, justly, I would say, celebrate and observe this feast, the feast happens to be 12 days long. Mm-hmm. So buckle up. Like, get ready. It takes a lot of preparation to feast for 12 days. Yeah. And especially with a large family. Mm-hmm. You have 8 or 9 children, however many we have. I think it's 8. Yeah. You are making a lot of food for a lot of people for a lot of days. Yeah. And it's so fun. The magnanimity, it requires magnanimity just to get through it. Mm-hmm. And the impulse, the desire to feast, the magnanimity, it is so great that it takes a lot of work. Like, it's you're basically working all the time at your feasting. Mm-hmm. But it's a celebratory thing. It's so great. I love it. Yeah. It's crazy. And I miss mincemeat pies all year. And I cannot wait to have mincemeat pies again on Christmas. Yeah. Like, and what's so fun about at least the Christmas traditions that we've stumbled upon is the the foods that we tend to make unreasonable quantities of, like plum pudding and mincemeat pies, they're way beyond a whole food. Like, to call them whole foods is an insult. Like, there's way more.
Yeah.
It's got booze, it's got warm spices, it's got every fruit on God's earth dried, mixed with dozens of pounds of beef fat, pure beef fat, and turned into various cannonballs and little pies and baked or boiled. And, one slice is a meal, pretty much. Yeah. Which is great because it's a lot of work in advance, but then you make it, and then you can do your best. You can have a shot at actually feasting for 12 days. You can actually pull it off. You just got to strategize with this super rich, overabundant plum pudding and mincemeat pies.
Yeah. It's really worth it, though, too, because throughout the year, especially coming off of Advent, which, okay, you can't really talk about Christmas unless you talk about Advent, but, it's a lot of a withdrawal. You are fasting and not being as social, and it's very much an interior kind of time. It's almost like when a wave is about to crash, first it
pulls back from the shore.
Yeah, and so there's that rhythm there, and so if we were to do that but then not feast at Christmas, it's not ordered.
Oh yeah.
And especially with the kids, like they need to feel. And I guess too, part of this is we have cut off a lot of the TV and the music, and there's not a lot of sensory stimulation at all. Like there's the piano, but
so all 8 of our children stare at us all day, every day.
Yeah.
Instead of the TV, they watch us.
Yeah. What are you going to do, Mom?
Just so y'all know. That's how that works.
And they're getting better at entertaining
each
other with the piano,
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that it does feel like, okay, we got to go all out for them, and I enjoy it too, but it is like, okay, roll up the sleeves.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. And most of all for the Lord, whose birth we are celebrating.
Absolutely.
What feast, what thing could you withhold justly during that feast? There's no cap. Yeah.
That's true, because there were times when I didn't want to do it for anyone or the kids, Yeah.
So you go
through it.
It takes virtue. It's just the opposite of what we think of as partying or enjoying ourselves.
Yes.
Which we tend to regard as chillaxing, sitting back.
I know. I don't even know.
Which is the opposite.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have an obligation to feast, it's a whole different thing. Ross is with us.
Oh, good.
He said he reminds me of being the lover of our patrimony in the French monarchy, and the first daughter of the church, and the beautiful French tradition like Réveillon, which I only pretend to pronounce.
Oh yeah.
But if you look up the accounts of these feasts, that was the Christmas feast. And I'm sure we talked about this last time. But just read any account of any pre-modern feast. And our most extreme excesses in modern partying will be put to shame. They're pathetic. Yeah. Lame sauce. It is so beautiful how extravagant, generous, magnanimous, and beautiful, and seasonally and liturgically harmonious and appropriate feasting was. Way beyond what we are capable of now.
He gives us the pronunciation.
Yes, réveillon. No ol. There you go. Keep the ols out of there. Réveillon.
Thank you, Ross.
So good.
I appreciate that.
Just read the accounts, and it's after the midnight mass, and you basically don't sleep because you're actually more hungry than you are tired from having fasted during Advent, and so you just commence feasting after midnight mass, and then you go to mass at dawn, and then you go to the day mass And it's and you just keep doing that for 8 days, serving swan and buck and goose and venison and pig head and everything.
Yeah, you do it for 8 days, and then I would also say you do it for 40 years. Like, you get better every year.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you can actually build a virtue
Of
across
feasting.
a year. Yeah, because we don't do, of feasting seasonally. Like, when December 17th comes around, I just know, okay, I got to kick into gear, and I got to set aside all these other things that have been occupying myself, and I don't have to get up, get going.
Yeah.
There's not that sluggishness, that I used to have 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
You get better. Okay, I got to order the mincemeat, dried berries, and make sure I got the stock of beef fat that I need, and it gets easier. So building these traditions, if you're just beginning, just start small. In the beginning, do one thing, and the next year add one more thing, and then the next year add a half a more thing, and then over the course of a family lifespan, our oldest is 13, so
Yeah.
we've really been doing a good job, I would say, an intentional job of keeping Christmas for maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe a little longer, but like building,
Yeah.
that culture. To where now Wallace can basically do plum pudding on his own,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So, but it's a generational thing that we're building. So
Yeah.
it takes 10 years or more.
And you get good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always talk about Christmas in January, like February, because this podcast isn't going to come out for probably a week or two. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our Christmas. What was our fall like? Do you want to recap it all? How fall went for you?
Yeah, it was good. I guess one big thing, I'm still recapping fall in my brain because it was just a whirlwind. But like I said, it was more classes than we've ever done, which means it was also more meat than we've ever. Well, yeah, I guess it was more meat than we've ever had in our walk-in. That was not a custom slaughter job. It was all ours. And, we send students home with a nice chunk, but there's still lots of meat to deal with. And my goal is to do this many classes, every 6 months, which is kind of how we cut up our year. But which means we're going to have an even greater burden of abundance. And I'm just coming to terms with the idea that I need to figure this out. Where could I learn traditional meat preservation methods? Oh yeah. I think I know where to look for that. But it's just like I just need to I need to develop a more clean, clean as in efficient means of dealing with all of this meat, because it's epic quantities. If we slaughter, oh my goodness, 6 pigs, a cow, and 8 sheep and 12 geese in 4 months, that's kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot, and we're not selling any of it. Like that's kind of our home meat. And again, I have to strive. I have to scramble about just trying to catch all of that ripe fruit as it falls from the tree before it hits the ground. And since Mr. McKnight already made a confession of losing some meat, I feel I have to, and I definitely lost like a bus tub of beef. It was bad. Just ground it and then forgot about it because the toilet exploded or had to braise some hams or something. Or in the case of Ross, had to unexpectedly kill a nefarious calf that desperately needed to die, and then before you know it, you go back in the walk-in and you have the smell of the stinky putrefying meat. You're like, what did I miss this time? And it's it's such a bummer. It's horrible.
Especially when you live this kind of lifestyle and that is the goal and you've got it and it's right there and all you need to do is finish the processing. It hurts, and it's so pathetic though too, because I found myself, in order to like wrap my mind around this kind of loss, I was like, well, the Old Testament people, like, they actually intentionally killed their firstborn and they burned it.
Their firstborn animal, yeah.
Yeah, or their best animal.
Right,
they intentionally lost 40, 50, 60 pounds of meat. Okay.
In the Holocaust.
I think I can accidentally lose like 30 pounds of meat and I'll be okay.
Yeah. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's hard. It's almost worse than like you lose $100 or something, because money is just so worthless.
Well, yeah, you can't quantify the value of home-reared meat.
You just see the work involved, yeah.
Money is such a pathetic metric. It is so woefully inadequate.
Sorry, I brought it up.
To quantify the value of the meat that you raise and harvest yourself at home. It's way beyond the meager suggestion of arbitrary legal tender. That it's an insult to put a price tag.
Yeah, that's why it's hard, because you see the sweat and work.
Forget about it. Not even the same thing.
Well, but anyway, Meatsmiths lose meat too. So
I know, yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So all of that to say, I'm extra motivated to build a smokehouse out of brick that will be very large. That will help with some of that. And one thing that we have found very useful is the brines.
Yes.
We stored a lot of meat in brine, which we've always done in the past, but it was very good to do it. It was
useful this year. Like, we kind of had to.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't get to even just belly bacon.
Yeah.
We couldn't eat it as quickly as you were producing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's always a challenge just to keep up with the burden of abundance.
Can we mention one of the discoveries we made?
Did we discover? Oh, yes. One excellent thing. Yeah, Ross says, I was just considering how I would not sell these veal bones for any price. Yeah. If you've ever made broth out of veal bones, it's beyond monetary value. Way beyond. One of the things that we have discovered that is like that recently, speaking of trying to just capture everything the animal is able to give you, is a particular kind of bread. And you can capture, especially if you slaughter a cow and you bleed them out, you get a gusher. You get an effusion of a huge quantity of blood. It's just huge. And even with a big family like ours, if we were to make blood sausage out of all of it, we wouldn't get to all of it before it spoils. And we love blood sausage. That's just how much blood there be in beef. And so my son, Wallace, found a really awesome technique in the Nordic cookbook by Magnus Nilsson, who had that Fabuken restaurant in Sweden, I think.
The book's like huge.
Yeah, it's encyclopedic.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it is an archive.
I should have brought it.
Yeah, it's like an archive of regional survival/thrival foods of Nordic peasants. And so it's awesome. It's so good. Because it's very authentic, and it's an excavation of tradition, how people have done it, and a preservation of it as those things begin to disappear. But one of those things is blood bread. And Wallace made blood bread.
Yeah. And
the cool thing about it, it's a way to preserve blood. So it actually, because blood is the most spoilable thing. It's the most perishable thing on an animal. You can refrigerate it. You could probably get away with 4 or 5 days before you start to question your decision making. Just because it's so perishable. It's It's just a bunch of water-soluble nutrients in blood. Like, there's literally no bacteria in the universe that doesn't want to eat that and proliferate and create pathogens and stuff. So what you do is mix it with a particular kind of dough, and Wallace just used your starter, right?
Yeah.
So no yeast involved. And he did put like a little bit of nutmeg, some spices in there.
Yeah. Yeah, you add some beer, but essentially, the thing about it is it's your water that you would otherwise use in your sourdough recipe.
Yeah.
So that's why it's kind of brilliant, because
so the blood replaces the water.
That's how I did it.
The blood and the beer replaces the water.
Yeah, which is why I really like it as a homesteading mom, because there's no extra work involved in using the blood.
Yeah.
Because if I had to make blood sausage, I can't add that into my normal routine. That's why we do it at classes, and it's really special.
Yeah.
And if we weren't so busy or we had some more teenagers, that we would eat blood sausage more often. But I'm making bread already like twice a week, and all I have to do is take the jar out of the refrigerator and pour it into my sourdough starter.
Mm-hmm. Instead of going over to the filtered water.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I can do that. And the other thing too is that, and I'll get to the ingredients too, but you form little balls out of it. They're like not biscuits, but like rolls, like bread rolls.
Like large biscuits.
Yeah. And
like
then
scones.
Yes.
But a little bigger. Yeah.
And then you dry them out, and they literally just sit in your pantry.
So you bake them.
Yes, sorry. You bake it.
Bake them. And then
you just let them sit in the pantry for weeks and months.
So they go stale.
And
that's the point. Mm-hmm. You have stale, little, rock hard. They get hard. Hard, little,
bread,
bloody
dumplings,
bread scones.
Yeah.
And they're super delicious.
Yeah. So then you take them out of, let's say you have just a crazy night and you don't have a lot of time. Melt some bone broth, pour some scones in there, put the blood breads, and add like some parsley.
And some raw eggs.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's like a full meal. It's awesome. It's like blood bread soup is what we started calling it. But if you've already got all that bone broth frozen in the freezer, you literally just melt it, throw in some herbs, just crack eggs right into the soup towards the end so that you have some runny yolks, they'll poach in there. And then I usually break up the blood bread, which takes a little force because they're rock hard. And then you pop the chunks into there, and just when it's ready to serve, they've become just yielding enough by absorbing all of the broth to be delicious. It's like dipping stale bread into your soup, but it's more tender.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
And you are right. I mean, the little rolls themselves are full of flavor.
Yeah.
Because you add fennel and maybe even oregano, but like a lot of fennel. And then dark brown beer, and then maybe some ginger. Ginger, yeah. And then, it's in that book. I can maybe even copy and link somewhere. We'll link the book, but I don't even look at the recipe anymore because my sourdough, I've just got it, and I just know whatever liquid I would otherwise use, I'm going to substitute with some brown beer and some blood. And then instead of forming a big sourdough loaf, I'm forming little balls, and you bake them at like 400 for 40 minutes or something. Yeah. So it's pretty simple. So
good. And the name of that book is The Nordic Cookbook. Very simple. Yeah. The Nordic Cookbook.
It's very inspiring.
All traditional pre-industrial, pre-chemical means of food preservation for the extreme northern climes of the Nordic countries. Yeah. And there's just a ton of great ideas in there. Really encyclopedic. Head in hand bear I, bedecked with bays and rosemary.
How many people do you know who are building their home culture around seasonal harvest and feasting? Or that are hunting as you are for self-sufficiency and back-to-the-land values? Or that share your artist's passion for human-scale meatcraft? At farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we've created a community of hundreds of omnivores from around the world with these shared goals, and 2 major places for them to learn from and inspire one another. First, we have our semi-annual hands-on educational event, The Family Pig, here at our Heartland homestead in Oklahoma. Come meet Brandon, get your elbows greasy, and over the course of 3 days, kill, cut, cure, and cook 2 pigs completely. You'll rub those greasy elbows with other meatsmiths from around the country, sharing meals and conversations to inspire you for years to come. Secondly, for more remote learning, over at farmsteadmeatsmith.com, we host a purely digital membership program with an archive of film and textual resources 5 years deep now. And both our on-site classes and online program include access to our most unique and rewarding private community Facebook page, Meatsmith Table, which is the only international network by and for homesteaders harvesting animals on a domestic scale using traditional and regional methods. We've been told that our classes are life-changing and the membership program unparalleled in quality and quantity. To get a taste of our education, search farmsteadmeatsmith.com and our YouTube channel for our free films, conversations, and downloads. Explore how we and other meatsmiths across the globe may best come alongside you and support you in building your home around the harvest. Please head to farmsteadmeatsmith.com today.
Mr. King is on, and I was going to use his testimonial.
Oh, sweet.
I
Cool.
hope that's okay with him.
Yeah.
I think that's a good segue. We have more classes
Yes.
that would be good to let people know about.
Oh, right.
They've been selling kind of quickly lately, so
Yeah.
but currently we just released a beef class, and then we've got some lamb classes,
Yep.
and they are May, June in there. It's on the website.
Yeah.
I probably should have the exact dates.
Yes. The beef class is Cinco de Mayo. It's May
right.
5th through the 6th.
It's just a 2-day.
2-day beef class, which is great. That was the last beef class we did here was also a 2-day, and I wasn't sure about it. I knew why I wanted to do a 2-day for particular management reasons of the immensity of a cow and to just contain the content a little bit. It's easy to get lost in a bovine. They're huge. You can just like all of a sudden you're swimming in like hide and guts that weigh 400 pounds and you don't know what is up or down anymore. And so it's nice to pare it down. That being said, we did everything during that class.
I know.
But it being 2 days, it did allow, there were several people who were able to come to that class because it was 2 days and not 3. Mm-hmm. Because I asked everyone about that, and they're like, the 2 days is why we were able to come. Because it is hard to leave the farm or wherever for, it's going to be at least 5 days for a 3-day class. So it just made it much more doable for people. So I think we'll do that again, and we are doing that again. But it's going to be, those days are long. They're long.
The second day especially.
The second day,
really
I mean,
long.
it's sun up to way past
There were
sundown.
some deer in headlights.
But wonderful. Everybody
Yeah.
loved it. And we were really able to emphasize the cooking, which is because we are teleological about this. We think that beef have a final cause, and that is to be cooked well. And so if we divorce beef from its final cause, then we don't know what cows are anymore. We don't know how to raise them. We don't know how to kill them properly. We don't even know why they exist. We start turning them into, what is it? Carnivores by feeding them the minced up remains of other cows soaked in molasses and radiated. That's the thing we do when we divorce beef from its causes, particularly its final cause. And so if you can learn how to properly cook beef, which is really what we focus on, braising, pan frying, and roasting, then you know beef objectively as it is. And so anyway, we focused a lot on that. We focused on curing beef. Obviously, we did the slaughter, the skinning, the eviscerating, the splitting. We did so much.
We have a few little
Holy
snippets of it,
smokes.
I know, on Instagram that people can see. One gentleman I asked towards the end, this was kind of new for him probably, and he just had this deer in headlights look, and he goes, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I think he was like the sheer quantity, much less, I mean, the quality is there, obviously. You're turning it into so many beautiful things. I think it was quantity and quality. He was just like, it's all great, and it's a lot, and it's all great, and it's a lot.
Yeah, because the final feast day was very extravagant. We roasted the marrow bones. We were able to spread marrow and fried bread.
That was ridiculous.
We did a lot of tartare. We did so much. We roasted a rib of beef wrapped in caul fat. We larded top round roasts and roasted those, which is to say we injected noodles of pork back fat into lean muscles of cow and roasted them in the oven. We braised. We did everything. It was pretty awesome. But that'll be May 5th and 6th, and that's up on the website now. For people
the thing too about the beef processing classes, it really highlights the braising, pan frying, roasting. It's a cookery class. It's very cookery oriented.
Right.
So is the goose class actually, which is a whole nother thing. But the two classes that we introduced this last fall, which were both 2-day classes, they really were heavy on cookery.
Yeah.
Whereas the pig class, which is already sold out for this spring, is very much cutting, killing, and curing, and sausage.
Yeah.
There's just less of the braising, pan frying, and roasting. There's some of that, but
yeah.
And
it
then
was great.
Yeah, and it was wonderful. And then the lamb class. How did the lamb class? What's your takeaway or highlight from that?
That was awesome. We did 2 of those. We do 4 lambs in the lamb class. And this upcoming one, that is a 3-day course, and that is June 8th, 9th, and 10th. And that's also up on the website.
It's just one of those, actually, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that one was great. We're able to do 4. So, we can put 2 people on each lamb, which is great. And so, it's interesting because teaching people how to skin, we don't do that in the family pig class on account of the fact that we scald and scrape them and dehair them. And it's really good. But skinning that's a whole nother realm of tactile skill. And the only reason it is done sloppily is because it's super awkward. It's super awkward. And the thing that differentiates all of us, first-time skinners from the people you might see on YouTube doing it in like 8 seconds is that tactile familiarity. Because it's just awkward, and you only get that by repetition. And there's a few general principles, and that's really what we try to help people see and experience by skinning the sheep at the lamb class. And it's all about getting in the right seam. That is the key to the whole skinning process. And it was great. Yeah, we did butchery and curing the second day. It was sort of follow the pattern of the family pig, but with totally, we did phenolore, which is you might also find in the Nordic cookbook, which is basically just a prosciutto style, like a lamb. You cure it in the style of prosciutto. It was great. Baked a lot of blood. We braised, pan fried, and roasted. We did all 3.
Yeah, really lovely people too. There's a couple people who shepherd for a living.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was great.
And a couple brought their son who's in culinary school, and that was wonderful. They had a wonderful like kind of family experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually there's many couples that came together over the last 5 months, just married couples, and that was so wonderful. and encouraging, and just seeing other couples doing this together like we are, and seeing how they're making it work.
Yeah.
Because everyone is trying to make it work, trying to make this lifestyle work in our culture, which is, so you have to be kind of creative, you know, to make it financially work with your time, with your job, your situation, your land. And so anyway, I have one of those testimonials here from such a couple. Mr. King is actually watching us right now. I'm just going to read it because I think it applies. They came to a family pig actually last spring, I think it was. But I think this highlights too the neat kind of the factor of coming as a couple, what it can do, you know. So anyway, my wife and I recently attended the May 2022 class in Oklahoma, and I cannot say enough good things about Brandon, Lauren, and the class. The 3-day class was extremely well laid out, and while there was a lot of depth to the information presented, we never felt overwhelmed with information.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The class gave us an excellent hands-on experience to pair with the Meatsmith membership as we move forward in raising and harvesting our family's animals. My wife made the comment as we were driving home after the class that she wouldn't ever trust anyone besides us to process our animals from now on. If you are on the fence about taking time off work, spending the money, etc., just make the jump and sign up. This is one of the best investments we've ever made in our homestead and our family. I will definitely be taking any other future classes that Brandon offers. I would also encourage you to bring your spouse along with you. Not only was it a fun trip and a great way to spend time together, but we each picked up on things that the other didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for such a great class, Brandon.
That's great.
From Mr. King. He's in Georgia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We have excellent students, too, I have to say.
Exactly what we go for.
we get to meet really wonderful people.
I could totally see how coming with your spouse, that's so true, that you would pick up on different things and remember different essential things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
So anyway, consider that if you are in a place to do that. You know, invest. It is an investment, but you get to meet people that then you can keep up with if you're on Facebook and you want to be part of our membership. And yeah, taking pictures, videos the entire time. Like it's really a great, intense. What do you call it? Like an intensity.
Intensive.
That's the word I'm trying to say. It's an intensive educational experience, but it's also very social and good food and
yes, we keep our whole calendar is real for the class. The whole schedule is really focused on the final cause, on the feast. So we eat every day in a way that accords with what needs to be eaten that day as a result of what we have harvested. It's really great, which is the best way. That's where all the flavor is.
Yeah. So yes. So there's some beef classes and lamb classes right currently, but we pretty much always have family pig on the horizon. If not, like, you know, currently being sold, if it's sold out for this spring as it is, next fall there will be
a lot more.
You could email Victoria, who's kind of she's our office manager. She does so many things, but you could email her at community@farmsteadmeatsmith.com. And she's sort of taking a wait list. I hope I'm not getting myself in trouble with her by saying that. She's like, no, I can't handle it. No.
She can't.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah, that might be the segue.
Yeah, we can do that. I did want to look at these. Joe, I think, has a quick question. This is kind of nice. I love.
Okay.
So, Joe, this is, since you asked before, this is our podcast, which is a shade of a degree different than the live chats. It's all silly, but
I'm just a part of
this is our
one.
podcast, which means Lauren gets to ensure that the content is orderly, and it's so much more enjoyable having her here. And so this is something we do very infrequently, and it's long form. We talk for a long time, generally around some themes, but we also are totally open to going anywhere. And we open it up to the Meatsmith members through Facebook so that they can actually chime in and ask questions, and we could see if we can get to them.
They can kind of hear it live.
Yeah, but that's what this is. This is the Meatsmith something. What is this called? What do we call it? It's a Meatsmith Harvest podcast. The live chat, the live chattery that we do on Facebook is just for members, whereas this will be available for everybody.
And you actually talk more about on your Facebook lives in membership. I would think you kind of stick to the meat.
Oh, I only stick to people's questions the whole time. And I don't have anything that I want to talk about going into it.
Right.
It's just the questions that people bring up.
And mostly just homestead content. Like managing pigs or processing, like meat processing type stuff.
Yeah, all on the home scale.
Whereas here, we have started branching off and talking more philosophically, cultural analysis. Not like officially, but it comes up, as it will today.
Yeah.
More like family type questions and topics. Homesteady. We even get into Catholic culture because so much of what you do kind of comes from that Catholic way of life way back in the day.
Yeah.
So that the podcast has taken off. It's gone that route. But inside membership, you don't go off. Oh, I think my uncle's on right now. Hi, Uncle Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
But yeah, so Joe does ask about the keeping of rabbits, which is, that does have lots of philosophical gravity to it, I think. Keeping of rabbits. I think we should all keep rabbits as an assertion of our thriving independence, because they are so infinitely accessible as a fresh, like at the drop of a hat. You have fresh meat on the table.
It's true.
And they eat the color green. So they're just awesome. Meaning if you see green foliage around you, you can raise rabbits. And if you have children that can gather it and shove it into their cage on a daily basis, then you don't even have to buy feed for your rabbits. And it might take a little while to find the right rabbits that don't get scours and diarrhea off of eating rabbit things. Because some of them have been bred to, grow real fast, and their demands are slightly different, and they can't really handle too much greens. They need their dry pellets or whatever. Just eat those ones right away. Forget about them, and keep the ones as breeders that they just like their greens. But he's asking, you've had multiple false starts with rabbits because they're kind of fiddly, nail care, and routine handling are the chief things keeping me from being successful. Okay, interesting. Can you speak to these things if it can fit in the conversation? So I don't care about nails. And I don't know if that's bad or good. But I'll just tell you my system that I had that worked. And I did keep them in wire cages as a means of benevolent confinement. Depending on your region, if you put rabbits on the ground, they're going to get parasites. And like here, I'm sure they'd be riddled with ticks and parasites. And the other thing they're going to do, if you put them on the ground in a warren of some kind, is they will dig out. And I have never yet, I don't know if you're doing this, Joe, but I only mention it because in the case that you avoid a lot of issues by not doing it. Specifically keeping a warren where you keep rabbits on the ground or like in a pile of straw bales where they're burrowing in the straw bales. I've never seen that work for any duration. It always fails, and there's always big problems. So I kept mine in cages, wire cages. I kept the breeders in there. the buck separate, and each doe in her own cage, or the buck in his own cage. And then I kept the kits in a big cage. I would put the kits in a big communal cage. It was actually a huge parrot cage, which I was sorry to not bring with me from Washington because it was perfect.
Oh, I know.
But it was huge. It was very big. But it was again, wire mesh floor, and they were off the ground. And it had a nice, I had sort of rigged up a manger or a sack out of chicken wire to shove all the greens and the hay in that they would eat. And that was where all the kits went. So I would have like 20 to 30 in there at a time. It was very big. They'd be jumping around, doing rabbit things. But they're only in there for like 12 weeks, before you harvest them. Or maybe 8 weeks before I start harvesting them. And then by the time we get to, 15, 16 weeks, there's nobody else in there. We've harvested them all. So that's one thing. Get them up off the ground, keep them in wire cages. I never trimmed nails. I never did nail care. They definitely grew long nails. I think before I would ever begin to start worrying about rabbit pedicure, I would kill the rabbit and eat it. Just because I think that's not going to be a good use of time. And even if it's breeders. So I did not necessarily prize my buck or my does. And like, we got to keep this one alive forever and ever because she's perfect. It's like, I would cycle them through. For any number of reasons. They look big and juicy, or, you ate some of your babies, you're gone. We're just going to eat you and replace you with another doe. And the thing is, they are so quick at reproducing themselves that you will never be without rabbits, no matter how strictly you cull them. So I don't know if that's exactly what we're talking about with nail care, but like I would, if nails ever became a problem, I'm eating that rabbit before I'm clipping it. And the only routine handling I ever did, I did no handling, nothing. The only thing I did was to take the buck out of his cage by the scruff of his neck. I would tuck them into my arm. If you cover their head, they don't struggle against you. I would tuck his head into my arm like this. Just tuck him in. Mm-hmm. And his butt's out here, And then I would take him. No, actually, sorry. That's wrong. I would take the doe out of her cage, tuck her head into my arm, and carry her gently over to the buck's cage and put her in there and watch until she gets bred and then put her back in her cage. So that is the only handling I ever did, other than grab them to kill them and eat them.
So you don't really handle the buck?
I never had reason to until we ate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and you always bring the doe to the buck because the doe is much more territorial. If you bring the buck to the doe, she will beat him up. Right? Yes, that's right. Yeah, she will beat the crap out of him. And he will not do well in that situation. And she will not want to be bred by him. So I hope that's helpful. Get them off the ground, eat them before you trim their nails. And it's a constant replacement. Culling is the best strategy. Yeah. Which is a very philosophical statement. That you have to cull the rabbits in order to improve their life.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
That is a universal truth on the farm. You have to eat the animals that don't fit into the harmonious system for the sake of the herd. Yeah.
We haven't done rabbits in a long time.
I know. Yeah, we need to get set up here.
We need a good cage.
I left all the cages.
I know. It's one more thing that I just realized never made it.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it till we just started talking about it.
Yeah, I think it will be a challenge here because of how hot it gets. It was hard on the rabbits in a Pacific Northwest summer.
You're right.
So an Oklahoma summer is a whole different program. Yeah. I think we would actually put them on the north side of this building, where it's pretty much cold as you can get in this in our little area here. And
it's like some fans maybe too.
Yeah, I've seen people put misters.
Yeah.
You actually put misters up along their cage. And, if it's a real hot day, you just flip it on just to bring the temp down. Because cold they can handle. Cold is no problem.
Right. Thank you again, Meatsmiths, for listening to our take on all things meat making, householding, and culture keeping. We hope it's helped you in growing your home around the harvest. This conversation will be continued in a forthcoming Part 2 episode. Thanks for listening, and peace be with you.